Welcome to my Commodore 64 Games memories. This is where I look at old games and some of the technical details behind them. Let's get into it. Today we have
Tusari, published by C64 on their cover tape in October 1992. So I did the code and the graphics, and my good friend Alan Peters did the music. So this was the first game that I completed from start to finish and then got published. I actually earned a little bit of pocket money for this one back in the day. Here we go. So this is the disc version. I couldn't find the mega tape that had this on. So the disc version basically has what was on the cover tape, except that there's an extra level and there is a flip disc message. I think the cover tape had this intro. Obviously the title screen didn't say development not for resale thing. The music by Alan, and the sample was actually ripped from some sampling or recording that I did. I actually had a sampler back in the day. I think it plugged into the user port. And then after that title screen, we go into actually what is quite a naff little demo with a little scrolling message and yet another logo and some more music. The less said about this part, the better, to be honest. But hey, I was kind of enthusiastic about this game back in the day. And here is the title screen. Kind of, I think, a little bit influenced by Creatures 1, maybe, possibly. So we have some expanded sprites up at the top, bouncing up and down with some not very good colour cycling effect. But okay, I guess. And then of course the high score table. The music on this is of course Alan, and Alan was always very good at doing music with kind of like a metal slant to the kind of music, or metal style, I guess. The melody and chord progression are quite metal influenced. So I really quite liked these kind of intermission screens. You can move the joystick left or right to choose between sound effects or music. In this playthrough I'm going to be using the music, because although the game with just sound effects is okay, the music is actually much better. So this disc version that I managed to rescue from my very old development discs does contain, it's not 100% complete obviously, because it's got all of this extra flashing border effect and stuff like that while it's decompressing. I think, to be honest, I really should have tidied up the transitions between the different parts of the game. But you know, this is basically Tusari that was included on that mega tape. So the Zap mega tape version of course used a tape turbo loader as opposed to a disc turbo loader, and some of my development discs, actually I have the disc to tape version of Tusari, which is basically the Tusari game files for tape, but on disc, and the disc basically writes onto tape, so it prompts you to record, and then press the record and play on the tape deck, and then it puts all of the files on there. Of course, the tape version, I think, there's a little extra message, which, okay, so there was a memory range which was either for the disc turbo loader or the tape turbo loader, and I think on the tape version there's a little message saying reset your counter to 0, and then at the correct point rewinds the tape to tape counter 0, or when it wants to go back to the title screen. I think it's hooked in like that. I don't think there are any real code changes between the tape version and the disc version, to be honest. Apart from the tape version was a little bit shorter than the disc version, because with all of the intro and, well, the title screen and the intro and then the game title screen and stuff like that, actually it was quite a long tape already, and it's quite funny when Zap agreed to wanting to publish it. I think they had the disc version, and they were playing it like that. And I said, yes, I think it's something like that. You can. I'll do you a tape version. And they went, yeah, okay, great. We'll put it on our mega tape. And then when I gave disc to tape stuff, it created a huge, for Zap 64 at the time, it created a huge mega tape, and I think it was. It took up a large proportion of one of their mega tapes, and they were a little bit surprised about actually how large it was. Sorry for making you spend more money on your Zap mega tape than perhaps you were intending, but yeah, it was quite a heavy load. Anyway, so it doesn't have all of the levels that the disc version has. So I'm not doing too well. Actually, I died quite early on in this level, but that's okay because I know the cheat code. See, there was a flashing blue screen there with a whole bunch of weird characters. Okay, so I know the cheat code, and it was the name or the handle that I chose for myself, obviously, when I was doing, to be honest, quite naff demos. And it's, no, that's the correct spelling. There we go. So with the cheat code, we get a little. Well, let's listen to the music because the music is actually quite cool. Yeah, very nice music. Color cycling effects with what looks like the standard ROM character set, char ROM. Maybe, oh no, it's not quite, is it? I mean, the exclamation marks are different. So, there we go. Anyway, cheat mode on, infinite energy. With a weird character in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, which indicates that I did not clear the screen memory properly. Anyway, now I've got infinite health, or infinite energy, I can just go through the whole game now without any issues. So let's see if I can remember the path through the level. If you hear rain in the background, it's because heavy rain has just started. it rains quite a lot here in Singapore, to be honest, and we do need it because actually it's weird because the last couple of days it's been quite dry. So. And of course, this morning I watered the garden, so didn't really need to have watered the garden for. So I like those little switches that you can press to bring down the great big block of stone, which kills all of the enemies that are underneath the block of stone. I don't remember if it kills you or not if you stand underneath it. You know, to be honest, it should do, right? But hey, I did notice when I was playing through this that some of the enemies actually cannot be shot. So the ghosts, for example, cannot be killed. I don't know why. The bats can be killed, but the spiders seem to evade my shots. The dragons, for example, seem to be killed only by the daggers and not by my sword when I use the up or down sword motion. So here we go. Oh no, I'm going to miss that dragon completely. I'm just running through the level as fast as I can. I'm trying to remember which way I should go. Here we go. Yeah, that's that way. Yes. Picked up more daggers. This was, I think, the first game that I did that had any kind of general purpose multiplexer, semi-general purpose multiplexer. The screen was divided into horizontal bands across, so Tusari could traverse between the bands, and maybe some other sprites could, but other sprites were not. So these drips, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think there were 9 sprites on the screen at that point. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sprites here roughly on the screen, so depending on which horizontal band the enemy is in, then they get used, and then there is a changeover period at some point down the screen. Yada yada. Anyway, so because I've got infinite health, I don't really care. I just am a little bit more concerned actually that, okay, there we go, that I was going to run out of daggers. So anyway, that was level 1. And here's the next intermission screen. So this game is not just a flip screen game. There's actually some scrolling involved. So this first part of the second level has some. I thought at the time that it was, quite nice parallax effect, horizontal scrolling parallax, but it's not too bad. But it's a little bit lost these days. You'll notice the mountains in the background have an interesting color combination and dither effect, which with CRT emulation turned on, we get a slightly expanded range of colors. So the idea behind this game is, I think it was probably looking like it was a little bit influenced by the horizontal shooty levels in American, for example. And I'm seeing here that there's a bat on the screen that's stuck that I cannot shoot. Hey, there seems to be some minor bug issues in this code. I am not surprised, to be honest. So this level goes on for a while. I remember actually making some tools for the level editing for this. They would be on my development disk images somewhere. Maybe at some particular point in time I might dig into the game's development tools, but I remember making a map editor and an animation editor and an attack wave editor, I think, for this. Oh, the screen scroll has slowed down. Oh yes, and then there's this rather weird looking boss. The tentacles seem to have a bug. You're meant to shoot the eye in the middle, and occasionally it shoots out a ghost. And in this case, you can kill the ghosts that it shoots out. And there's a little explosion effect with some multiplex sprites. I was probably quite proud of that at the time, of having an explosion effect. Now this is the second part of the second level, and this one is actually quite interesting. So you'll notice that it's basically allowing you to collect bonus diamonds to increase your score, which is kind of cool. There's a counter up in the top right hand corner, I think. Anyway, this demonstrates vertical parallax scrolling. So there's an FLD in between each area, and that's why it opens up with the black area. But the FLD allows vertical scrolling as you move up and down the screen with the different horizontal scrolling speeds of the level. And I think that's the first time that that effect, which was based off this flip disk message actually. So the flip disk message is actually also using an FLD with horizontally scrolling areas, but the game level is probably the first time, almost certainly the first time that a horizontally scrolling parallax, vertically parallax scrolling level was used in any game, especially with sprites over the top of the FLD areas. Anyway, so the third level, here we go, ready, level 3, yet another intermission screen. Right, so I can't use my pokey down sword thing to kill the dragon, but I can kill the dragon using my daggers. Doesn't make sense. Really doesn't make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sprites. Okay, not too bad. Just interesting to remember how many different screens actually exercise the multiplexer functionality that was put into this game. Listening to the music, because this level actually has two parts to the music. There's the first part, and then once you get to a certain screen and level, it changes over to the next part of the music. So I'm letting this one play through a little bit, the music that is. I remember when I was coding this that I wanted the stars in the windows here to twinkle, and I did all of the code, and you can see that the stars do animate if I flip between the screens, but I wanted them to twinkle when they were on the screen. So I did all of this code to animate the characters within the windows, forgetting that I had to redraw the windows as blocks actually in the level as it was displaying the screen, and I completely forgot to do the redraw of the block. So the animation is only apparent in these windows when you flip would flip between screens and force a redraw, which was a bit daft, to be honest. I should have really just, forced those blocks to redraw every few frames or something. But yeah, so I did all of that time and effort in writing code to update the block definition in memory, but then forgot to redraw the blocks. How stupid. Whoops. Now I'm trying to get to actually the part in the level where I'm trying to get through. I kind of forgot that you're not meant to go down here. Yeah, this is a little bit frustrating. Hold on. Yes, okay. I also have a bug in the jump. Oh, I can go down there, right? Yeah, there we go. And then up. Yay! Okay, great. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. I don't have that many daggers left. Oops. Oof, oof, oof. See, I really like this block. Now, when this block comes down, it gives you enough space to actually jump up onto it and then over the obstacle. This one you have to kill. This is a variation on the first boss. It has some extra sprites, and instead of throwing a barrel or a boulder at you, it's shooting lasers. Okay. Here's some food, which I don't really need because I've got infinite health. I'm more concerned here about my dagger supply. I hope there are some daggers that come along. So this second piece of music it goes quite mental, actually, which is really quite cool. I think it rocks quite well. Meant to go up here. I really don't remember anymore. To be honest, yeah. Oh look, I've got a lovely bug there where I can't. Dead end. Thank you very much. Much younger Martin for doing that silly trap. Thank you. So where do I go? All the way up over here then. Down here. Right, down. Yes, down with one way down. So this is kind of like forcing you to progress through the level by making you fall down through the vertical space. Okay, fine. Then, okay, there we go. Daggers. I think this is the last screen coming up. There we are. Okay, so this is the bird. It says the head is your target, but I'm shooting the feet, and it seems to be doing damage, so I really don't know what. So, there we go. Actually, it looks like the multiplexer is slightly dropping out the wings. I'm not surprised. I expect when I was drawing this in my mind, I really wanted the wings to flap down, but I don't really have the animation frames, I don't think. Obviously I don't have them there, but I don't think I had the animation space, the space and memory for all the sprite frames. And there we go! So it doesn't take too long to play through this whole game. The end is now coming. Again, the music by Alan fits really well with, you've got to the end of the game. I wanted this part to look like film credits, and that's why it says, credits starring Tusari as herself and guest star, blah blah blah. Does anyone recognize the melody used in this music? I do. And to put it within the film credits type thing, then there's this disclaimer at the end. There we go. That's not a typo, it's meant to say Dibley stereo on selected computers, not Dolby stereo on selected computers. I didn't want to incur the wrath of the trademark from the Dolby Corporation. And there we go, there's the other flip disk from side B to side A. Again, a not very good transition from that screen to the title screen. There we go, high score entry. And back to the title screen. So let's have a little technical look at what is on the game disc. Oh, the SFX kit by NH. So the Commodore disk user, I think it was, had a sound effects editor which I used for the game sound effects, and obviously that was coming through in one of the files that was included in the game. So the D-packer that I use, or the packer that I use, rather, that D-packs into memory, it's a sparse D-packer, so it doesn't overwrite the whole of memory. It leaves the memory up at the top in certain chunks, untouched. There we go, that SFX kit by NH message was coming up again in there. So there's a bunch of extra files here. I don't think virus is really a virus. No, it's not. It just 816.215, 817.200. That is setting the disk loader vectors for the turbo loader. So it's loading the TUS file. It then sets the vectors and then loads intro by the looks of that. The TUS file, yes, it loads at C700. So this is the turbo loader code which I extracted from Commodore Disk User. I think it was published on there a little while ago, on one of the earlier disks for Commodore Disk User. And it's a very good turbo loader. I used it extensively. It basically lived on nearly every single one of my work disks. So let's get trusty old ICU64 set up to start inspecting the game. FM-DOS Turbo, well there we go. So FM-DOS Turbo, that message is at C800 roughly-ish in that page. And that screen memory there. So C800, well, actually closer to CB E0 roughly. So we can see that there's a bitmap there in memory, there is a compressed version way up top of memory. So let's have a little quick look at the disk turbo loader. So here we go. So looking at this, it's doing a load or and then a store, and it has that. It's doing a load X and an or load X. So we can see here that it's using the serial port signals directly into a lookup table, and then doing that 4 times per byte that it is storing. So it looks like a 2-bit transfer protocol, which is not a surprise because it's actually very quick. And look at that, it's actually doing load from serial port and then final store, but it's doing that 4 times. So yeah, very optimal. The drive side code, you can see here the drive side code is doing load, shift, 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 store, shift, store, load, store, shift, bit, store. Basically, yeah, very fast, very optimal transfer of data using 2 bits at a time back to the Commodore 64. And the drive code has what looks like quite an unrolled loop. 64 side actually has quite an unrolled loop as well. Very cool. Very specific and optimized code for the Commodore 64 and also the drive, making full use of the bit arrangement in CIA2, obviously, and VIA on the drive side. Well, now we can see the reason for the weird memory writing pattern is that the drive is interleaving information from 3000 in hex, and then 340, and then 380 in hex, and then on the Commodore 64 correspondingly has stores into C500 and then C580, and okay, yes, that's doing kind of like an interleaved decode of the entire block of memory before it finally copies it back into where it's loading from or where it's loading to. Okay, so as you normally expect, this screen, simple scroller with simple sprites moving around. Looks like there's a bug in the sprite color update where it's actually not updating the colors for all of the sprites, it's just updating the color for the first sprite, the E and part of the L in the element 114 logo. There's a little bit of basic code here, stuffed away higher up in memory. Probably me editing the screen for the message and then poking it somewhere. Yeah, look, right there, poking it into 72 times 256. Which is basically here. And then, you know, I'm copying the data from the main screen as I've hand edited it and then putting it up into higher up in memory, and then I'm saving it obviously from there using the basic editor for the screen to do the screen editing. There's the score table up at the bottom part of the memory, right up at the top, the top of memory right at the end. You can see that it is untouched by the depacker. There's some floating around memory up there in E4, E500. High score table entry, of course. The top of the screen there contains the score panel. Oh look, there's some more floating around memory there. That's the screen data there, the top right hand corner for the full screen score display. And then of course the intermission screen with color bar effect in the background that's scrolling around in memory by the looks of that. Of course, the individual files, they seem to have basic runnable, all of them seem to have basic runnable starts to them, so you can just extract the individual files from the disk and then just run them individually. You can see here that the horizontal flip disk message on the ICU debugger view, it stays in the same place, but obviously on the C64 view, it bounces up and down as the FLD expands and contracts that part of the screen. And the press fire when ready message also is the same. In the ICU debugger, it's static vertically, and on the Commodore 64 screen, it bounces up and down, so there are actually 2 FLD parts there. with the second part having some horizontal scrolling going on. And of course there's a colour bar as well behind the message, which is basically the same effect used for this part of the level. We can see there's a score panel there. We can see the horizontal areas of the screen scrolling around. We can see that this portion of the screen actually doesn't scroll the characters, it just does a pixel scroll. Okay, that saves some time, I guess. Oh, so when you run the level normally, because the configuration from the previous intermission screen hasn't been set correctly, I guess it's playing sound effects rather than music. So here we go, there's the SFX kit by NH. Looks like there's a little bit of assembly left around in memory there. So the parallax scroll is obviously just scrolling the characters. Now that's similar to what Hawkeye did, but on a much smaller scale. Obviously doesn't look as good as Hawkeye, but that's because I'm not really an artist. Well, that looks like assembly source files using 6510 plus assembler. There's some basic code there. It's sitting around inside the D64, so the disk image wasn't completely formatted before creating the disk. That's also just about typical, really. Some assembly here sitting around. Assembly code, right? Byte 210255254253252. Yeah, more assembly code just dotted around within the D64 file. So we can see here that the level view actually has this shape of characters flickering on and off, and that's when I do the collision detection for Tusari. I think I put some characters there saying these are Tusari's characters, and then the enemies detect hits against that, rather than me detecting hits against the enemy characters. This is character-based collision detection rather than sprites, and that should not be visible when the game is actually running, but the ICU debugger view shows these characters quite clearly, and that's because the debugger view updates at a different time compared to the game rendering. I think when the raster time gets really, really full in some parts of the game level, it is sometimes occasionally visible because the game update occurs at a different time. That code which puts those characters there and then erases them and then restores them back to the level again runs at a different time vertically on the screen time, so then we can actually see it, especially when Tusari is up near the top of the screen. It's probably very visible then, depending on where the timing split is exactly. Obviously the top part of the screen that's displayed on the Commodore 64 is the score panel. That's in a different part of memory compared to the game. So it's more optimal just to update where Tusari is in terms of the character data, and then have the monsters check for collisions to Tusari, rather than having all of the n number of monsters having all of those updates doing it. It's more optimal to do it the other way around. The monsters also detect for hits to the daggers. The daggers don't detect for hits to monsters. So there's all of the scroll text. There's the screen, the scrolling message, credits message. Nothing really that interesting in there. So there are some unused sprites. I remember now that I initially wanted to have a sword swipe, and you can see that if I zoom in to the sprites here. Well, first of all, there is the hello, and then leave my memory alone message with a hi in there. There's a duplication of the practice yes no message. There are some sword swipes. There we go. There's the sword swipes, which actually were never used in the game. But the sprites are there, so I intended for the feature, but the feature was never added. Don't know why. This actually says telephone, and then my very, very old telephone number. from many decades ago. Don't call this number because it won't work anymore, especially if you're from the UK, obviously. This says that these are sprites from 802BF. Okay. It works in multicolor, doesn't work in single color mode. Interesting. So, funny story. Somebody was trawling through, many decades ago, somebody was trawling through the sprites for this game. Now, the tape version only had this in there. It didn't have the disk directory, obviously, because it's the tape version. And they called this number saying, "Can I speak to Martin, please? I saw this, and I saw this in this game, and I wanted to call the number." So anyway, that was Tusari. Some old memories being dug up there. Not technically that interesting, to be honest, but still, it's a part of the history of my games development history. It was before I got a real job in games development. So thank you very much for watching. If you like these kind of videos, then please do consider liking or subscribing to this channel, or dropping me a message in the comments section below telling me what you like and what you don't like. Thank you very much and have a great day wherever you are.